Regan Hillyer. I am so excited and honored to be here. I have so much respect for you. I have so much wonder and awe at how you live your life and what you've created in this human experience. I feel so inspired by you. And as we've gotten to know each other and as we've gotten to deepen over the last few months, I feel even more curious, because most people who are creating at the level that you are, most people who are creating the kind of impact, reaching as many people, creating the kind of wealth, birthing whole empires in many different arenas are stressed. and sometimes really hustling and grinding. And now I'm here in your beautiful birthing haven, heaven commune here in Costa Rica, and I don't feel any of that. I feel deep presence, I feel relaxation, I feel ease. And so I want to, in a moment, I'm going to ask you, like, how are you managing to create in such a big way with so much ease and grace? But I want to start by asking you, what are you most proud of having manifested in your life so far?
Well, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here. It feels amazing and so excited for this portal of conversation and transmission to keep opening. What am I most excited about? What are you most proud of? What am I most proud around how what I've
created a lot.
Honestly, I'm most proud of my inner center, that I've really worked really hard actually to like manifest and birth and to come into that beingness, because there's 3D external things, which is great, but I feel that none of that means anything if I don't have that center, you know, and then it becomes at what cost if you don't have that center, you know, and I feel like I'm really grateful for that each and every single day. And I'm also always on an inquiry of how do I get even deeper into that, into the center of my soul, really, is what it is. But I think that's something that I am really personally proud of. It's like the world can be imploding in all these different ways, as it does, but can you be the eye of the hurricane, and can you find that like center and that stillness? And I'm proud that I'm at a place that it's easy now for me to tap into that, you know.
And was it not always easy?
No, I mean, I used to be pulled into the drama and the emotions and the stress and the hustle. And, you know, I mean, for example, when I manifested my first $1 million, I was 23 years old at the time, but I was sleeping like 3 hours a night. I was living off Red Bull and coffee. Cool. I had a super like unhealthy relationship with my body. I had toxic people in my life. Like, I did it, but at what cost? I was so far from my center. Alignment's such a buzzword. I was so far out of alignment from my soul that I've definitely, you know, I'm grateful for that, because it gave me the polarity and the contrast around like, okay, that's one way to do it, right? I like to call it manufactured manifestation, where you're like controlling every little piece of the thing to make sure it has, and the trap is it works. You can still get there. I was 23 years old. I had a business doing over $1 million. Everyone was like, you're amazing, right? But I was trying to control every little piece versus surrendered manifestation, which is where you open up and allow the divine synchronicities to code through you, but that can't happen until you find this place, you know.
And what was your journey of finding it? Because I listened to one of your interviews yesterday preparing for this, and I loved the way you said, in order to tap into like your next wealth frequency, you need to tune in to your soul, to that version of you. Because if you're listening to someone else, that's their way of getting there. And like someone else's heaven might be your hell. And there was something about, and that seems like a simple concept, but the way you articulate it, I really heard it in a new way, where it's like, you're never going to manifest your abundance taking someone else's plan. Yeah. So what was your process of going from that hustle and Red Bull and coffee to like really, I mean, I can feel your guidance. I mean, I can feel how tuned in you are. I can see how guided this whole beautiful property is that you're developing here at the Nest in Costa Rica. And I know that it's a daily practice. I know that it's a journey, but was there an inspiration point, or was there a moment that's really helped you to plug into your guidance?
Yeah. Look, it's an ever unfolding process, and I feel I'm still in the journey of refining it. But there is a moment that comes to me now where when I'd created this company when I was about 23 years old, I remember like from the outside, everyone was like, this is so amazing. Wow, like you're doing so well. You're so young. This is so good, right? And I was helping people. I was in the coaching industry. It was a seminar company that I created in Australia and New Zealand. But again, I was like back to back to back to back running events with all these people in the room, right? But I had this moment where I stood outside a room and there were about 50 people in there, and they'd invested a lot to come for this 3-day seminar that I was running. And I went to go and put my hand on the door to open the door, and I felt this like sick feeling in my stomach, like in my gut. I was just like, something's wrong. It felt so weird because I'd felt it once before. I felt that when I was at architecture school, when I was at university. And I had a moment where this gut feeling was just like, this is not where your life is meant to go. And there was this voice that was just like, stop. What are you doing? And it was very confusing because on the outside, everyone was like, you're doing amazing, right? And I just knew like, oh, I know what this feeling is, even if I don't know what it means. Like, this is a warning sign. This is like every part of my guidance and my soul being like, hey, right? And so I didn't know what to do. So I left and I went to Bali, and I had a business.
The conference?
New Zealand. No,
okay.
I did fulfill the event.
Conference. Okay.
Yeah.
You're like, hands on the door.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel good. Sorry.
I'm out.
I mean, that's a real commitment. That's some real surrender.
I fulfilled the event.
Okay.
Then the next day, literally on the Monday, I booked a flight to Bali, right? I was in Australia, New Zealand zone at the time, so it wasn't that far away, but I got out of the country basically, and I allowed myself just to be with me and in the stillness. And I realized that I'd created this whole company, brand, persona, money, even clients, everything based off this mask and these masks that just weren't me. Even though, I mean, you can't blame me. I was 23. I didn't even know who I was, right? But I just saw it. I saw it in front of me. And so I shut that entire company down, and everyone around me, mentors and coaches included, was like, you were sabotaging yourself. What are you doing? Like, you need to stop. I gave it basically to my business partner. I was like, I don't want anything. Like, I just know I'm out and I need to be with me. And I spent 4 weeks just in the nothingness. I spent 4 weeks just like sitting there basically staring at myself.
Bravo to you, because everyone talks about that and it seems like a sexy idea, and like 45 minutes in you're like, maybe I should check Instagram, certainly I should write something or work out or start a something, but to just sit in the unknown, that's brave.
I did. I sat there and I was like, you know what, I want to be of service, I want to help the planet, I want to figure out my gifts, but I want to do this in a way where it's in alignment with my soul. And I just realized I was on this whole trajectory that taking me like into this whole other realm that over time, it's like 2 degrees off, 10, 20, 50 years later creates a huge gap.
Ooh, that's a beautiful image it's clear.
Yeah.
That even a 1 to 2 degree differential from your soul over a lifetime.
If you hit the golf ball 2 degrees off, it ends up really far from the hole.
Okay, so you wanted to, you're in Bali and like, how do I manifest this reality, this dream? How do I architect this life of my dream, but in alignment with my soul?
Yeah.
Okay. And then like, was there like an aha? Why 4 weeks? Why not 6 months? Why not 4 days? Like, did something change at 4 weeks?
I never set the 4-week time. I was just committed to sitting there for as long as I needed until what felt like truth dropped in. And when it did, it was blindingly obvious, and it's going to probably sound really weird, but the message was, you need to be you. And I just remember writing it down in my journal and staring at it, and I just burst out crying, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. And I felt like there was so many layers of conditioning and what everyone had said, you need to be like this, or you're good at that, or you're not good at this, or you did this in school, or you didn't do that, and like all of that. And I was just like, what does that mean? What does that mean? I was a 23-year-old who was like, I have no clue what that means. But I knew that like that was my center point. It was like, okay, I get to be totally unapologetically me without any mask or pieces or this or that. And so I started the quest on that, and then I just started stepping step by step. And every step I was like, is this me? Every step I was like, is this my soul? Every step I was like, am I doing this because it logically makes sense, or someone else is doing it, or someone taught me that this is the way? Like, can I feel my way forward into that, you know?
And how has that coming home to yourself, is this me? Is this coming from my higher self and guidance? How do you find that's allowed you to manifest abundance, manifest millions, manifest magic? Like, can you just help us to understand what is that relationship between your unique authenticity and architecting a reality that you desire?
I feel it's everything. I really feel it's everything. And yeah, it's like, you know, when you meet someone and you don't even know them, but you just feel like you trust them because you're just like, I can feel their soul. They're not trying to be something else, right? It's like getting into that core frequency. And then as I went deeper with this, with manifestation and going into these pieces, I started realizing like, wow, what if the most authentic expression of me was not the version of me now, but what if it was to embody my highest essence? What if I started playing with these questions, right? I started going, well, what if the most radically me version of me was not now, because now is an accumulation of the past me's that's got me to here, but what if I was able to access the future me's and import some of that information and then live from that space, right? And I started playing with this, which is how I later got into time bending and, you know, quantum fusion and so many different things, but it really started there. Yeah, so then I realized, I was like, okay, what if actually connecting to the highest essence of yourself was not about faking it till you make it? What if it wasn't about becoming something you're not? What if it was about getting into radical authenticity with the actual truth of who you are? And I started playing with this, and I was like, well, what if I could start to access some of that information? What if I could then import that? What if I could embody that? What if I could just be that version of me? And I treated it a little bit like a game in my head. And I think if people had seen in the beginning the game in my head versus what my life looked like, they would have been like, you're insane. Like, you're completely insane.
What did the game in your head look like?
The game in my head looked like this higher self version of me that had manifested the life that I was calling in, that already had the money that I desire, that had the freedom, the body, everything, right? When the current reality looked nothing like that. Like on the current reality, I was like, at this time, broke and confused and like had no idea what my purpose was anymore, and was kind of in this in-between flux and was just floating in Bali and like, you know, the current reality, if anyone had looked at it, versus the story I started then playing in my head, because I imported that information, there was a big gap between that. I mean, I wasn't like a day or two out. I was trying to play the game of being 5, 10, 20 years out from that moment in time. And it started working. My life started shape-shifting around me the more that I would embody that essence.
And so how did you play the game? Like, it seems like you had a vision in your mind, but how did the game manifest in your life? Like, how did you move through the world? How did you play the game in 3D reality?
Yeah. So what I would do firstly is I didn't want to create the information from my mind, because then we're still creating from the constructs of the ego. But I would sit down and I would just, through my intention, no fancy process, I would just call in the highest version of me that I have access to right now, right? And then I would treat it like a podcast interview. I would literally, you can do it with your eyes closed, but I would be like, okay, how does this version of me walk? How do they talk? What do they think about? What do they say yes to?
And would you imagine it that you were like, how do you walk? How do you talk?
Yeah,
or would you
I was
say,
asking the questions and I'd take notes. I'm in like schooled by my higher self. So I would write it down and I'd be like, okay, this version of me walks and talks and thinks and acts this way. And I'd get into details. I'd be like, how do they dress? What do you eat in the morning? What are you excited about? What does pleasure look like for you? Like everything, right? I would get into like all the micro details, not how did you do it or what's the secret straight, like the beingness, the essence of the frequency of the beingness, right? And I would like download this information and write it down. But then I would commit to being that as much as I could and embodying that. And when I would be making life choices, I would stop and I'd be like, okay, there's a part of me that just wants to say no, but wait, what would my highest essence do? I mean, it's a full yes. Okay, I'm going to say yes. And I would make choices even in my life that maybe seemed totally not logical or even crazy, big choices, but also little choices. You know, there's a story that I told on one of the Mind Valley platforms, and I still get messages from people going, oh my God, today I chose the blueberries. And I don't know if you've heard this story, but I was in a supermarket, right? And I was like putting things in my shopping trolley when I was starting out with everything, and I was like adding everything up in my head. I'm like, okay, I want to spend like $30 for the week, so there's this and that. And I went to get the blueberries, and then I saw they were like, I don't remember the number, they were like $7 or something. And I was like, whoa. I love blueberries. And so I was like, no. So I put them back, and I picked up the strawberries that were like $4, right? And put them into my cart. And then I kept walking, and I stopped, and I was like, what am I doing? I don't like strawberries. I don't even like strawberries. Like, why did I just switch that out? And then I stopped, and I'm like, what would my highest essence do? I'm like, my highest self would just choose the blueberries. In a scenario where saving the whole $3 in the scheme of my life is actually not going to make a difference at all. And it would be like these micro moments where I'd stop and be like, highest self, wait, am I really functioning from that place of embodiment or not? And I would self-correct and like school myself on that, you know.
Oof, this feels really important of, you know, the present you as a collection of your past. So if you're just checking in with your authentic self from the now, we've got all of this trauma from our past, or all this conditioning from the past.
Yeah.
Versus I love the idea of it's still you, it's still your authentic essence, but it's future you. And like what is that version of me choosing and feeling into? And I love that you have a story about manifesting in blueberries. I do too, because my son, when he was little, I had more authority over what he was eating. So like blueberries were the sweetest thing he had ever eaten. I'd never really given him processed sugar. So anytime he saw blueberries, he would freak out. He'd be like, blueberries, blueberries, blueberries. And he would get so excited. And so one time I was trying to give him blueberries, but he was so excited that he was like, his fists were clenched, and he was like, blueberries, blueberries. And he got so excited, but he was mad that he didn't have them already. And then he started getting pissed, and his fists were clenched. And I literally have the blueberries in my hand, and I'm just trying to give them to him, but he won't open his hand. And then finally he calmed down, he opened his hand so he could receive the blueberries. And I feel like we get like this with our manifestations, but we want it so bad, we get so attached to the outcome that we forget to open up our hand and receive the blueberries. So we always talk about this.
I love that you have a blueberry story. Blueberries are now a universal sign for abundance.
Oh, we should like have a thing of like, what was it, a big blueberry year for you?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how are you doing with your blueberries this week?
It was a 5 blueberry week. I like this. And so one of your, before we go into like the isms, because you have so many beautiful manifesting techniques that I want to share with everyone, but I'm curious, like for people who don't even believe in manifesting, or people who think like this is not for me, or I'm just not a good manifester, or I don't even know how to know what I want. Like before we go into why isn't everyone manifesting abundance, can you sort of like sell us on why we should want to, like, and that it's even possible to do it?
That's such a loaded question. There are like 30 questions.
I know. So the simple question is, why would anyone want to manifest abundance? I mean, obviously everyone wants more money and everyone wants abundance, but I think not everyone believes that it's possible. And so like for the skeptics out there, like what would you say to someone that's like, manifesting is just hooey, it's just blah blah, like all these new age people are talking about manifesting all the time, you're so privileged. Like what would you say to that person of like, hey, it is possible to architect your reality, and how do you know that?
Well, it's very possible, because when you really zoom out, you realize that everyone is manifesting all the time. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe in manifesting or not, whether you think it's woo-woo or not, everything you do and don't have in your life, you've actually manifested. And so for me, even if you don't want to change your life and you want everything exactly how it is because everything's fine, that's cool. But there's something really beautiful in just stepping back and just taking radical responsibility for your entire life. And just realizing like, okay, everything that I love, everything that I don't love so much, like everything that I have, everything that I don't have, actually I've played a role in creating all of that. And when you realize that, and you come into this place of self-responsibility, you realize, well, if I created or didn't create all of this, then how much power would I have if I actually maybe put my intention around this, right? Because if everyone has manifested some sort of change in their life, some sort of partner at some point, also maybe some challenges. Like, we've all done this. Unless you've been living in a cave and you have zero life experiences, like, you have manifested. So it's not even like, do you believe in manifestation or not? I believe we are manifestation. And if we really realize that, then what a like sovereign, beautiful, powerful place to come into, where you're just like, hang on, like, I get to architect my reality. Like, this is amazing. And this is not from a place of control and trying to, like, I don't know, now I have to create my entire life. Like, it's this beautiful dance of the magic and the synchronicities and flowing with the natural wave of life that is looking to flow through you. But you're coming from this place where you're the captain of the ship all of a sudden. Like, before, maybe you were driving the ship, but you didn't even know, and you didn't know where you were headed or what you wanted, right? And it's also, you touched on that, like, I don't even know what I want. I had that a lot. I remember when I started going to personal development event, and they were like, we want you to make a vision board of your ideal life. And I remember sitting there being like, I don't know. I don't know, what do I want? And I try and force myself into things. People were cutting out like images of big houses, and I'm like, I don't know if I want that. And then they were putting a boat there, and I'm like, I mean, I could have a boat, but like nothing felt like exciting. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, why don't I want anything? And I have nothing basically in my life at this point in time. And then I realized that I had so much conditioning that had shut me down from dreaming. So much. Like, I was a daydreamer as a kid. I was the kid in school that was like staring out the window and like having these experiences and always in some sort of daydream. Much more exciting than paying attention in a maths class, for example, right? And the teacher would come like, what are you doing? Stop daydreaming. I need you to focus. Be in the room now. Like, and layer by layer, piece by piece, that just got shut down, that little part of myself, until I was at this point where I'd forgotten how to dream. And I think a lot of adults have this, right? Where they lose this capacity. And so we have to kind of give ourselves permission to dream again and go into these layers and try things on. Well, maybe I'd love this. Maybe I want to manifest that. No, I don't feel it. Okay, then what about this, right? And know that we're not pouring concrete on anything. Like, just try it on and see how it feels. But we are manifestation at the end of the day.
Like, humans are a manifestation of spirit.
All of us, yes.
Yeah, that's already happening.
Yeah.
So why isn't everyone manifesting abundance?
Look, I think many people are not manifesting abundance because they haven't trained themselves to tap into certain tools, right? Yes, we are all manifestors. And like anything, when you have guidance and skills and frameworks and a toolkit to go into, you can get a lot more precise with this, right? So people don't know what they want, firstly. They don't know how to be clear and specific. Many people are like, oh, I want abundance. I want financial abundance. Okay, well, if I give you like $10, like, you're going to be good? Like, no, more than that. What's more, like, the universe loves precision, right? And then if there's blocks and limitations underneath the surface that stops and slows down our manifestations, we must also be the embodiment of it. So there's many layers to this, and I don't think it's a one fit answer where it's like, oh, because it's this like one thing, right? But there's many different layers to manifestation. And if people don't have the context to be like, this piece, that piece, this piece, that piece, it can be very tricky to try and navigate it forward.
Yeah, that's something that I really appreciate about your work, because I think we talk about manifestation similar to how we talk about meditation. It's like there's a word meditation and it's become this blanket term that means thousands of different things.
Yeah.
Like the word food, like blueberries is very different than eating a pizza.
Right.
Same thing, you could practice Vipassana meditation, or you could do Ziva meditation. Like, there's millions of styles, and I think that manifestation has now become this blanket term where people think that it's just like one technique.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, manifestation, I should just learn that one skill.
Yeah.
When actually, like you said, there's so many different pieces to
Yeah.
it. And it is, just like an architect is going to have a blueprint and knowing how to draw and then how to measure the land and what supplies to get.
Right.
It's like very nuanced process.
Yeah.
And yet I would argue that if we don't take time and invest resources in learning this skill, then what is the opportunity cost of that? Because then we can just sort of become victims and let nature take us wherever it wants, which there is beauty in surrender.
Sure.
But I think if you look at a human brain, it's 50-50. You know,
Yeah.
it's like 50% individuality and 50% totality.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to play the manifesting game, where it's like, yes, my desires matter and nature's desires matter.
Yeah.
My effort matters, and nature, I'm going to ask you to do your part as well, or allow you to do your part, not resist. Nature's doing her part anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when I was an actress, I would make my to-do lists. And oftentimes when you're acting, you know, you're putting out so many auditions, so many voice lessons, so many things. And oftentimes the return on investment is not immediate. And sometimes it's a long game. And so I would often have my to-do list, and then I would have universe's to-do list. Because it felt like, you know, like winning a Tony Award or booking a lead in a Broadway show. You could really show up and give your A game 100 out of 100 performance, and you might not book that show.
Yeah.
So it was like, I think that's why I got into manifesting originally, is that so much of it felt out of my quote unquote control. That I was like, I have to start to dance with something bigger than me, or I'm going to go insane.
Yeah. For sure.
It's like so much rejection. You're putting yourself out there so vulnerably, and it's so much heartbreak.
Yeah.
And I would also play a game where I would make my goals bigger and bigger, and then I would manifest the thing like just under the goal. Okay, now I want to win a Tony, and then I would book my first Broadway lead. Or, okay, now I want to do TV and film, and then I would book something else. So I wasn't, and I think that's an interesting, it almost feels like a hack. It's not really a hack, but I'm curious what your relationship is with that, of like setting goals just beyond what you think is truly possible, or just beyond what you desire.
It's an accelerator. I get people to do this. So I call it expanding your capacity to receive, right? And so we can only receive what we have the capacity to hold in our system. And what happens is that unconsciously we're wired to keep ourselves safe, right? We're wired to keep ourselves in our comfort zone. And we have a fear mechanism where, like, if we get very close to the edge of a cliff, our whole unconscious system is like, hey, alarm bells, stop, like, don't take another step because you're going to fall off the cliff and die, right? So what happens with our manifestations is that if our system can't see, especially unconsciously, what is on the other side of that manifestation, it sees it as an edge of a cliff. And it says like, hey, wait, stop, don't manifest that thing because there might be a huge big black hole and you might fall off and die. Even though the conscious mind would be like, that's crazy. It's a manifestation I want. It's money. It would be great, whatever it is. If your system can't see what's on the other side, it marks it as death, basically. And your system's trying to keep you alive. So you need to work with your manifestation, and then we must condition past the upper limit into that next layer. So for example, if money's so easy to work with because it's so measurable, right? If someone's manifesting, say, $10,000 a month, I'd be like, yeah, great, you know, aim for the 10,000, and you need to now do all the manifestation work on $12,000 a month. Or 15, or whatever is that step just beyond that. Not $100,000 a month, because that becomes sabotage. Oh, look, see, it didn't work. I can't do it.
Yeah,
I've
you
created
don't believe
evidence
you deserve
and proof.
it yet.
I'm not saying that 10 to 100 can't happen. We're in the field of miracles, but it takes a lot of internal energy to get behind a larger jump, right? So go the jump ahead. Okay, if you already had 10K in your life now, per month, and you woke up and you were living into that reality, what would be your prayer? What would be your vision? You're not going to be like, okay, 10K again. You're going to be like 12 or 13 or 15, whatever it is. So then you do all your manifestation work on the level beyond the level, the vision beyond the vision.
Ooh.
And then energetically something happens. Not only does your system go, oh, I can see what's on the other side of that. It's not a big black hole or a cliff. In fact, it's amazing.
In fact, I'll want something else.
Yeah, exactly. The system goes, oh, actually, we can go for the bigger manifestation. And this big goal in this scenario of 10K a month becomes a stepping stone. It energetically shifts from being like the big thing to like the thing that must happen in order for you to get to that next place, right? So even like in my advanced stuff, I get people to even do 3 layers out. I'm like, yeah, you have your big manifestation. Okay, let's go the layer beyond that. Now, if you woke up into that reality and that was already done, what would your prayer be? And then we go into the upper limit. So we're working 3 layers out. So what you're doing is amazing, basically.
Wow. I love that you're doing that. So it just feels like so meta. It also feels so actionable.
Yeah.
And my 24-year-old self feels very validated.
Yes. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Can you share a story of something that you manifested where you were just like, oh, wow. We were like, high five nature, high five Regan. Like, wow, it's happening. Because, we're always in the game, but then a lot of the game is celebrating it when it happens.
It is.
You've been on the cover of magazines. Is it this manifesting this beautiful space here in Costa Rica? Your relationship with Wampa? Like, has there been a moment where you were just like, get out the pom-poms, let's go, I did
it? There's been many, and I do love to celebrate because it's really important to show the universe, like, yes, please, I desire more of this frequency, and I'm so grateful. So that is really important. There's many, but I will share this piece around meeting Wampa because this is an interesting manifestation because my mind had a very different map as to how I thought this was going to go, right? So previous to this relationship that I'm now in with my husband, I was in a very abusive relationship with the highs and lows and the swings of like intense passion and love and amazingness, and then into the swing of like full abuse and manipulation and craziness, right? This was a 4-year period, and I really spent the last 2 years trying to get out of that relationship, and then I kept being hooked and looped back in. And I was sitting on a plane on my way from LA to Malaysia to speak. I was traveling by myself, and I was reflecting on the entire relationship that I'd been trying to get out of, and I kept going back in. And for the first time ever, I just made a choice. You know what? I am choosing that I will be in a high frequency, soul-led relationship. And I got out my journal and I wrote down, not the person, but I wrote down the container of the relationship, the energy, the frequency, everything that I desired in that, not worrying about who, what, this, that, details. I was like, okay, this is it. And for the first time ever, I'd done that before, but for the first time ever, I chose it. Like I fully chose it. And I remember shutting my journal and I was like, okay, this guy is either going to somehow magically morph into being this. I don't know how that's going to happen, but that's an option. Or he's going to magically morph out of my life. Oof. And and so it is, right? And I remember sitting there on the plane just being like, I was just looking around everyone being like, I just made a really big choice, everybody.
Hey, everybody, did you guys feel that?
I kind of felt like the plane could feel it. Like, I was like, I slammed my journal. I was like, this is the thing. It just happened, right? So fast forward about a month from there, and I managed to segue out of that relationship for the good final last time. And I felt it this time when I left. I was like, I'm fully, completely done. Now, in that doneness, I was like, finally, time with myself, time with Regan. I'm going to marry Regan. I'm going to go on a self-love journey to Bali. I'm going to spend 2 years just loving myself up. I was so excited. I was also excited. I want to like eventually go out and date other people. And I was just like, okay, it's going to be a really beautiful, good 2-year period, right? 2 weeks later, I get on a plane, I go to Mexico and I meet Wampa. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, and he's extremely clear. I won't go into the full story, but basically he's like, you are the love of my life. I'm here for you. Yeah, okay, I hear you're in this transition, but you take as long as you need. I'm here.
Wow.
And he just like fully showed up. And I just remember feeling him, looking at him, and just being like, this is the frequency I prayed for. This is the frequency I manifested. Like, I slammed my journal on the plane and looked around for this vibe. And I remember my mind going crazy because it had manifested in front of me. My mind was like, no, like, you are not ready. You are not healed. You do not want this. Another relationship 2 weeks out. What is the internet going to think? Like, there was so much going on in my mind. I was like, and I want to be by myself. And I want to go to Bali. And I told him, you're amazing, just not right now. I need some space.
Yeah.
And about a month later, we were fully together, and now here we are.
It
took me about a month to fully surrender into it.
Nature's going to do what nature's going to do. But the thing I love about this story is that you were writing about the container, writing about the frequency of the relationship.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes I'll coach people and I'll be like, it's like an Oprah trick, but you write 100 attributes of the person. But really, it's the container, it's the relating. Yeah. It's how do you feel inside of it? What's the third thing that you're birthing? Yeah. So that feels like a beautiful up level on that.
Yeah, and then the person or people will just naturally fit into that vibe because it's an energetic match that forms, not like a criteria crafted from the mind of a certain way. Like if I'd been doing the criteria way, I might not have even like noticed him, or like I didn't write down like, oh, he must be from Costa Rica, and like looks like this. And, you know, he didn't probably fit even my criteria of the mind. I was like, okay, he has a son. Like, I didn't really ask for that. Like, he's a little older than me. How do I feel about this? There were all these like 3D elements that obviously all turned out to be really divine and perfect. But from what I thought my mind wanted versus I was so clear on the energetics, when the energetics showed up, it was like, oh, this is a full soul connection. Yeah.
Bravo. I love y'all's love. I will just share the story of, I got to go to a wedding, our friend Mel's wedding, and you two officiated the ceremony together. And I think that's such a I mean, you did an extraordinary job. It was so, like I said, it's like you brought the ceremony into ceremony. So many weddings are like, you've got the rituals, but they seem devoid of spirit. And both of you are so connected to spirit. And then the way that you danced with each other. And what a time, especially in a heterosexual, like male-female wedding, to have male and female there, to have the masculine and feminine holding the ceremony space felt really, really special.
Yeah, it is special. We love it. Yeah.
So you are known for saying you really can have it all. Like, you sign your emails, it's on your Instagram, you really can have it all. I'm curious, like, where that came from. Was there a moment that you really believed that for yourself? And what are you trying to communicate with that? Like,
yeah, for sure. So for me, this is not about having all the material things. I mean, can be if you want, but for me personally, it's around having it all in every area of your life in whatever way you desire for you, completely unapologetically on the terms of your soul, right? And this came from an interesting moment when I was very young and I started going into the personal development world and hearing all these people, and it was actually Oprah. And I heard a quote from Oprah and she said, "You can have it all, just not all at once." And there was like this little rebel part of me that's like, why? Why not? Like, why? Why can I only have it in one or two areas of my life? Like, I don't get it. There was a part of me that was like, can you explain that? And she wasn't there, so she couldn't explain. I was reading a quote.
Oprah? Hi.
Oprah, hi, I have a question. Like, this quote on a Google image that I saw.
Yeah.
But I was like, why? And then I started reflecting deeper and I saw it. I was like, oh my God, people have the relationships, but they're super broke. And then there's these people that have financial abundance, but their health is down the drain. And then there's other people that are super healthy, but they haven't got. Then I was like, I was just seeing it left, right, and center. My awareness started tuning into like these imbalances, right, in people's different areas of their life. And I was like, well, what if that's not true? Like, just what if it's not true? What if you can have it all at once? What if, yes, of course, what you focus on expands, and maybe if you're really fixated in one area, you can do that. But what if you were to holistically expand and upgrade and up-level every area of your life? What if my arm is actually not separate from my toe and my head? And what if we are a one complete holistic unit? Wouldn't it make sense that our life is also one complete whole holistic unit? And so I just started treating my life like that. And even if I was focused on, for example, manifesting money or something with my relationships or a health goal, I would always write and intend to manifest, and I still do, like, and may this ripple into every area of my life. Ooh. And let this upgrade every area of my life. And what I'm learning here with money, wow, I now see that codependency with money, that pattern. I can see it in my relationships. I see it with my family. And I would notice where it maps into other areas, and I would allow everything to elevate. And so I started creating proof in my life. Like, you know what? I don't want to be the girl that just like is really amazing at manifesting one thing. Like, what if it really could be your entire life? And the better it got, right? Like, just what if, right? And so I started like sitting and living in that frequency and playing with it. And then I would just say it, and the more I said it, I was like, wow, this is really... Like,
you would say, you really can have it all, I really can have it all?
Yeah, I would say it to myself, and then I would say it to other people, and then I'd mention it in conversation. It just kind of became a thing in my languaging. And then I realized, I was like, this is like a codex for abundance, because abundance does say you can have it all. Abundance doesn't say like, oh, you can have this, but not that. You can have this, but you have to trade that. Right? It's this old world model of scarcity where it's like a trade-off of one thing for the other. A contraction of like, yeah, you've got to work hard for this, but that's going to fall at this expense. And I had a lot of childhood conditioning. Even my parents would be like, look, honey, just focus on one thing and do one thing really well. I had all of this conditioning on the one thing. And I was like, I'm not a one thing kind of girl. Yeah. Like, I'm super multidimensional, multifaceted. I'm a creator. I'm an artist. I want to like go do that thing and then this thing and that thing. And someone else might perceive me as scattered. But what if that's like upgrading every area of my expression and my reality and my manifestation? So it came from there. It came from me being like, why? I don't agree with that.
I love this. I love that you took this cultural ism, because I hear it all the time. And actually, when I read it in your email or something, I was like, that my argument was that. I was like, yeah, yes, you can have it all, but not at the same time. Like, I finished the sentence for myself. And then, and now I've just been like, what if? What if I can have it all? And I love this tool that you said, that as you're manifesting, as you're journaling, you say, may this up-level all areas of my life. That feels like a really important key.
Yeah.
And it seems like your relationship with journaling is really key in your manifesting. Is that true?
Especially in the beginning. Yeah, especially. My work now, I feel, is a little more energetic with me personally, but in the beginning, it helped me so much. And it just seems so simple and easy that I could just get a pen and paper on my laptop and then just really craft my reality or process and internalize what was going on from the inside out with blocks or limitations or pieces like that. It just became such an easy go-to tool. And I was sharing this on a mastermind training the other day. I feel like I honestly got to a point where I could write out anything in my journal and it was like a magic spell. It was like it would then just happen. And you know what's crazy? When I kind of got to that point, and I remember thinking like, whoa, like it's really magical. I can write it down and then it appears in my life and I don't feel like I'm doing too much else to manifest that. Like I stopped journaling. And then I realized like 6 months later, I was like, where's my journal? Where's my pen? When did I stop doing that? And I realized it was a self-sabotage pattern that kicked in, because when something is so powerful like that, again, it's the unconscious coming in, oh, let us keep you away from that and keep you in your comfort zone, because you might just manifest everything that you desire. And then what are you going to do?
And then who will you be?
Then who will you be?
Yeah. Wow. We do a game. I have a mastermind. It was called Evidence of Magic. And I would partner people up, and in the morning they would write their day. They would like daydream. They would daydream. Yeah. And they would write out their whole dream day, but in past tense. And then they would have to report back to their partner before they went to sleep at night. And again, it's like magic. You're like, oh, I wrote it down and then it happens. And I think that so often in manifesting, we just forget to place the order. Yeah. And we just simply don't. And if you go and sit in a restaurant and never order food, the food's not coming. No. It's like we have to actually place the order. Yeah. And what's interesting is that even for myself, like when I was inside of that container and leading the mastermind, I was doing it and then I stopped at the end. It was like, what? Emily, you literally just created a thing. You know, you proved to yourself that it worked for 6 months, and then you're just going to take some time off? Yeah. What? So silly.
Sneaky.
So sneaky. Some naughties.
Very naughty. Very sneaky.
So here's one of the things I'm most intrigued by with you is, I guess it is a version of having it all. I've never seen anyone like play the business game at the level that you're playing and also play, let's call it like the witch medicine woman game at the level that you're playing. Yeah. Like the closest I've come is my friend Layla, but she doesn't really lead with the business. She doesn't really let people into the inner workings of her business too much, like you very generously do, and very bravely, I think, talk about money and abundance, which I think in the spiritual communities, people have a bit of a like cross-circuiting on that. Like, oh, you're spiritual, you shouldn't be talking about money. Right. You're spiritual, you shouldn't want money. So I guess first, can you address that myth that if you're into spirit and medicine and helping people and healing, that you shouldn't want money? Let's start there. Yeah. We'll pause there, and then we'll go into the simultaneity of your entrepreneurship and witchiness.
Exactly. Yeah, Vishen says you're like one of the witchiest entrepreneurs that I know. He always says you and Emily.
Yes! Yeah. I take that as high praise.
It's so funny. Okay, so people that are deeply on their spiritual path that for some reason have created some sort of belief that they shouldn't have money, or that's bad and evil and wrong. Look, I know that a big part of my mission here is to get financial resources into the hands and the hearts of the people that are really going to do good things with this planet. Yes. And so maybe if you're in that vibe, but you hear that and ask yourself, really deep down at your core, are you a good person, right? And do you have a big vision to leave this planet better than how you found it? And wouldn't it be amazing to actually have the resources to bring those dreams to life? rather than it being just a vision or a prayer or a concept, or there's so many people talking about the new earth, but like, who's building it? Who's creating it? Where does this get allocated? Like, we live in a society where money is a system. And then, yeah, maybe there'll be crypto or other things or whatever. But right now, money is like the key system. And money is just energy at the end of the day. And so if we are also tagging ourselves as being separate to, or demonizing it, like we were talking about the other night, or putting a tag on this and saying, oh no, I don't want that, that's not me, like you're repelling that energy away from you. When ultimately, I believe the spiritual leaders of this world, the ones that are really true and good and doing their work, they are the people that should have the resources. I have so many amazing friends and people that I know who are highly spiritual and intuitive, and I'm like, I would trust you with my money. Like, I want you to have more money. I want you to be amplified out, because money's an amplifier at the end of the day. If you're a like greedy, horrible, narcissistic, self-centered person and you get a lot of money, it's going to just create more of that in the world. But if you really care and your heart is pure and you have the best intentions, it will amplify that frequency, and that's what we need.
I love that.
Yeah.
My coach will say, let's get the good guys rich.
Yeah.
Like, let's get the good guys rich. And it feels very similar to this of like, we want money is energy, and who is stewarding the most energy on the planet?
Right.
Who is investing the resources on the planet? Are they doing it from a place of, I want to leave this place better than I found it? Or are they doing it from a place of fear and wounding and hoarding and lack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've helped over the last, 5 or 6 years now, to create over 60 conscious millionaires. And these are people that were not millionaires prior, but they are amazing. They're every single one of them heart-centered, amazing, conscious, awesome people out there with their gifts and their magic in the world. And it's like, more please, like, yes. More please. Like, yes. There is a wave. I do see it shifting. I do see like more and more amazing people waking up and going, well, actually, like, asking themselves, you know, if I was to have large chunks of money in my life, would I do good, amazing, powerful, responsible things? And if the answer is yes, then you're ready for those resources, in my opinion.
What are your views on tithing, like giving 10% of your money to charities or organizations? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it comes down to what feels aligned. There's definitely a give and receive always, which is happening. And I see if people... This doesn't happen much in my community, but I see this almost in like the old school entrepreneur community, you know, those people where it's like they've made so much money in their life, but not from a place of giving as well and giving back, that then they create an imbalance. So in order to try and unconsciously balance it, they either like blow up all their money, or they lose all their money, or they all of a sudden just want to give all their money away. And I see that happen like sometimes later in an entrepreneur's journey. And I don't think it happens so much with more conscious millionaires, because they are more conscious of like, okay, money's energy. There's a pulsation, there's a give and receive. Even if like money's flowing out of my account and I'm paying bills, like I'm blessing that money for the energy of where it's going. Like it's a spiritual exchange. So if it feels good to ground into like, okay, 10% every month, then that's cool. Or it might be more intuitive. It might be like, you know what, every 3 months I feel into this amount or that amount, and a chunk like that. Like, I think as long as the exchange is happening and you can really go to sleep every night being like, I am making a good contribution on this planet, then this is great. And some people swing the other way and they're like, I gave everything away. Like, now I'm suffering again. Like, okay, great. That wasn't useful either, right? So we've got to be in this beautiful, harmonious balance with it. Yeah,
that feels really liberating to me, because I made a commitment a long time ago to do 10% of Ziva proceeds to environmental organizations, which I feel really proud of, and it feels really good to me. And I've changed the organizations over time, and I'll find out which ones I think are like the most relevant at that time. But there have been moments where it doesn't feel like 100%.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if it's my fear, if I'm getting into a story of lack, and this is exactly when you need to be tithing and exactly when you need to create that flow. But I think this is a more advanced game where it's like, oh, is it 10% 1 month? Is it 3 months of, like, what feels like the most pressing need? What feels like the desire that's going to create the most joy in the giving versus any sort of obligation?
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, it's not always with money. Like, sometimes someone might do something where they give a huge amount, but it might be with their time or their energy. Like, there's also other ways to rebalance. It doesn't necessarily have to be financial. Someone might say, well, I made, for example, $10,000 last month. Okay, 10%, 1K of that now goes to this charity. But they might create a huge like project and mission that then goes and changes the world in some way with the extra time that got freed up because their business was more leveraged and they made that money. And maybe they didn't make a donation, but the value exchange of what they then did was worth like $100,000 of impact, if we're looking at it that way.
Yeah.
So we've got to also, apples with oranges, right? And look at the overall like energy flow and the give and receive cycle. And you feel it when you come out of balance a little way, when you slide. And it's a beautiful like dance to feel into like, okay, where is my center now? And if you're getting out of balance and you need to give more.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd love to know about your relationship with meditation and manifesting, right? Because meditation's been such a beautiful, impactful tool for me over the past 16 years, and for me, meditation becomes like the foundation. It's like coming home, reminding myself that I am God pretending to be human. I like to start my manifestation from there. But I'm curious what your relationship is with meditation and how it dances with manifestation for you.
Totally. Well, in terms of my work in manifesting, I feel like I haven't actually gone super, super, super deep into the meditation path. But what I have gone deep into is what I call the activation path, which is different, but similar.
Yep.
It's like kind of in the same bubble. If someone knew nothing about it, they might even be like,
that's all a meditation.
The same. Yeah, exactly. But for me in these processes, it's a little different. And I love meditation and I utilize meditation. I definitely wouldn't consider myself personally a meditation teacher. However, an activation teacher, yes, right? Because I feel like that's just what's called me forward into this path a little more, and what I started playing with personally and what continued to unlock. So it wasn't from a place of trying to not meditate or this and that, but it was more like what's alive for me and what's creating the ripples of impact. So for me, when I say activation and the processes I guide people through, we might utilize states of meditation, but also not always. On my early stages when I was starting to channel and bring through these activations, I had a teacher that I very much respected and still respect, but at the time, he was a very, someone, big in my life that I looked up to, and he was like, "You're speaking too fast, you're bringing them out of a meditative state." And I said to him, "But I'm not trying to get them in a meditative state. We're doing something different.
I'm getting them in an abundant state."
Right, it's different. So for me, an activation is using the mind as a crystalline tool to tap into the energetic field of information, to work with the elements of the subtle layers of the geometries, of the structure of our internal reality, to activate what is actually lying dormant within someone. Okay, so it's allowing these geometries, which we are all made up of, if we zoom into the core essence of our particles, right? We're made up of light and frequency and sound at the end of the day. And so if we're able to go in and update these geometries, we can create energetic coherence in the field that can then match to whatever it is that we're looking to manifest, so that we can come into greater harmony with that. So then it begins to just naturally appear in our life, right? So it's a little bit different, right? Versus your amazing meditation techniques where I'm like, okay, I'm a humble student when it comes to someone teaching meditation, right, at a deeper level, because this is a little bit of a different process. So for people, it can feel even like I am talking fast at some moments in time. It can feel like, whoa, vibrating this and that, and different sensations running through the field, because we're turning elements on that have been sitting there so that you can embody even more of your own divinity, right? We're coming back to so you can be more you at the end of the day, so you can embody even more of your highest essence, right?
Yeah. Thank you for naming the difference between meditation and activation.
Yeah.
Because I do think that, like we were talking about these blanket terms, like, oh, her eyes are closed, someone's guiding her through something, that must be a meditation.
Yeah.
But actually, for me, meditation is a de-excitation, right? Everything is slowing down.
Right.
And in Ziva, that de-excitation is the thing that creates order. So similar to cymatics, where you have that sacred geometry happening in the water or the cells, that's happening from actually an internal sound frequency, but you're doing silently, but it's bringing the body into order, but it's happening through de-excitation, which is different than activation.
It's totally different.
Which is where you're like waking up, tuning in, like you said, like getting the geometry of the cells to start to vibrate at the frequency of the thing you're calling in. And yes, your eyes might be closed in both situations, but they're wildly different practices.
It's two different paths to get to the same place, but they are different paths. It's like saying, like you said, oh, yoga is the same. No, it's entirely different. Or breath work is the same. No, it's different. Right? Yeah.
And I think I want to just highlight that because when people are starting out, they can think like, oh, Regan did a meditation and that was really fast and I was imagining this and feeling this and my body was waking up and I was having all sorts of, I was feeling and seeing crystals and angels.
Yeah.
Which when Emily did it, it felt kind of like a nap. I felt like I maybe took a little nap sitting up. and so just, I think that if you know that these are different modalities, it can feel less confusing and less frustrating when you're starting.
Totally agree. And I mean, I have not said, I don't think ever in my life, let me guide you through this meditation, because I do not claim to be at all an embodied expert in meditation. Yes, I can get into meditative states and I enjoy meditation and I love it and it's a part of my life, but as a teacher, no. But activation, yes, right? So if anyone's saying anything about Regan's meditations, it's because someone else has said it. They're repeating that. I never said that.
I mean, I just want to give people the tools to know that they're not failing, right? That like, oh, this one is meant to activate and this one is meant to make me feel rest and it's okay to be different.
Right.
It's okay to be different. So you and I had the amazing fortune of getting to facilitate with you and host a workshop for Mind Valley called Sex and Manifesting. And you gave such an extraordinary presentation and I loved it so much. But I would just love to dance a bit into the realm of utilizing sexual energy as an amplifier for manifestation, because this is a new body of work that I'm birthing. And I think you're really gifted at articulating it. And also, I want to name the hilariousness of the timing of the fact that you're on this dieta with this plant where you're not allowed to tap into your sexual energy. And yet we led this webinar for 4,000 people. And for 2 hours, you were just like dropping knowledge on sexual energy and manifestation. So bravo. And like, how do you utilize, or would you recommend that people utilize their sexual energy to amplify their manifestation? Or do you think about it differently?
Oh, it's such an amplifier. Yeah, it's totally an amplifier. And yes, it was so weird running this training, being in a 6-month post-dieter container where I am learning to basically not be in any sexual energy. And if it comes, to breathe that back into my core and my center to amplify my light body, basically, at a higher level.
But I mean, you could argue that skill that you're using as part of the
still using
dieta, but that's similar to utilizing it and then linking it up or allowing it to fuel the manifestation. So it's almost like you're getting a 6-month masterclass.
Yeah. It is, and it's definitely good schooling. But yes, sexual energy is our life force energy, as you know, right? At the end of the day, and so when we bring that into a peak heightened state, especially, and we're able to link that with what we desire with our manifestations, then what happens in the energetic field is we start having quantum entanglement start to occur. It's really interesting. We come into this heightened peak state, which might be just feeling sexual energy. It might be orgasm or close to it. When we're there, right? All of a sudden, if you're able to like focus and okay, this is what I desire from my soul, and you bring in that manifestation. You don't have to see it and visualize it, just intend. You might, but just intend that it's there. What happens is that the particles at a particle level of your manifestation starts impacting the particles at now. And I personally believe it's because your particles are more open and a little more lucid, right? We're almost in an altered state, right? When we come into these peak states. And so the particles are impacting these particles, and then they start fusing, and we have this quantum entanglement, which is proven with science that these particles can impact each other across time and space, totally irrelative to distance. So we have this quantum fusion which takes place, and all of a sudden, is it our peak state particles? Is it the manifestation? Is it fusing? Is it all becoming one, and it like into the field altogether, which basically helps us access it and embody it at an even deeper level. With manifesting, I teach energetic conditioning, and I teach people how to condition themselves to basically get into the state of having already received their manifestation. Because if we're always mapping it out of feeling it into the future, it will always create itself in the future, right? But if we're able to feel it now through our body, right, through every layer of our being, then it's just going to manifest faster. So if we're using sexual energy, it's amplifying that and it's having it happen even faster. Yeah.
Can you give us the Cliff's Notes on quantum entanglement? How would you define quantum entanglement?
Yeah, so quantum entanglement is effectively when there's, say, like your particles here, and we are made of particles, right? Everything is made of particles. We're all light and sound and frequency and vibration, and even things that appear to be very solid or still are actually vibrating at a particle level. There's a lot of space and there's a lot of movement. And then we have the particles of, for example, the manifestation in the future. So through connecting with that, you're able to effectively pull across time and space the particles from the future into the now, having them literally import the information and update your particles now, right? So that they're coming in and effectively matching the frequency of what you desire, and then they're fusing and entangling with itself, where if you looked at the particles when that was happening in the field, you'll be like, are you the manifestation? Is the manifestation manifesting you? Like, it's kind of all in this one web of like mergingness, right? And this is mapped through quantum physics. It's amazing. Like, this is really actually what's happening in a quantum physics world when we're
Meaning
manifesting.
that like particles can be in two places at one time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a relative as to how far away. It doesn't matter if this manifestation is supposedly 20 years out in your future, because time is an illusion. Through the observer effect and through quantum awareness, you are able to simply call in and perceive those particles and bring them into the now for this fusion to take place, so that you can effectively, literally embody your manifestation at a deeper level. And the more you embody it, the more it then reflects on the outside. Because we don't get in life what we do, but we do get in our 3D physical reality a reflection of exactly who we are. So we're updating who we are at a particle energetic level to then reflect, oh look, I manifested the thing.
Because you became the thing.
Because you are the thing.
And you tapped into like what you said in the beginning of like, I'm tapping into that future version of myself.
Yeah.
And in your original exercise was like, let me journal, let me interview this future highest version of me.
This is what I do now.
What do you mean? Oh, like
that process with the particles and the energetics. Remember I said I don't journal so much anymore. It's more energetic. It's more this process. But when I was journaling, that was happening. I just didn't realize.
Right. And it's just a little bit more deliberate. Like anytime you're starting a skill, it's like you learn ballet. It's like, oh, first position, second position. And then ballerinas are not thinking about first position.
Right. Exactly.
Like professional ballerinas are just dancing.
Right.
And so you got deliberate to begin with, and now you're like dancing in the energetic field.
Yes.
I remember reading, I don't remember which book, but I discovered the idea of Schrodinger's cat. Have you heard of this? Yeah. So it's like the cat is both dead and alive at the same time.
Yes.
And this is kind of a dark story, but I was pregnant and I thought I was having a miscarriage. And so I was like mourning the loss. And then we went to the doctor and they're like, oh, here's the heartbeat. And so then I was like, oh, the baby's alive. And then we were celebrating the baby. And then I like had another perceived miscarriage, and we started calling it Schrodinger's baby because the baby was alive and dead at the same time. It's sort of a dark story, but it was a real like living embodiment of like both realities felt true at the same time.
Yeah.
So actually that leads me to something that I've recently learned as far as manifestation is the idea of deciding. And it sounds like that's what you did I decided that this is the relationship that I am worthy of. I made a decision, but I learned that epidemiology, what's that? Like, what's the history of words? Whatever. That the history of decide is the same as homicide.
Wow.
Or genocide, that the side actually means to kill.
Yeah.
And when you decide, you're killing certain realities. Like you were like, no more, I do not accept this reality anymore. And then it allows you to have that quantum entanglement with the new reality that you are choosing.
Absolutely.
And I think that, I'll speak for myself, but I hear this a lot from my students as well. I think part of that, what's underneath that I don't know what I want, is the terror of killing the potential realities.
Yeah.
So what do you say to your students that get off on the infinite potentiality? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah. It's so funny. Well, look, you're right around killing, right? Anything that is not aligned to where you're going, right? And, I see this in my clients, like the ones that literally, like they manifest it and they do it and it's at such a high level to the point where it's ridiculous quantum leaps in their business, for example, and the rest of the world is like, this makes absolutely no sense. Like, how did she do it? And they're wanting me to say like some secret Facebook strategy that no one knows about. But no, like what I see is the common thread, because they're all doing it different ways out there in the world. What I see is the common thread is I'm like, there's just absolutely no plan B. There's no, like, there's not even one part of them that is even available to another option other than that. And you could call that like obsession, right? And I think I have that as well. And also like, yeah, I could get into the shadow of it and I could use it to get obsessed with things and addiction and all of this in my life. But instead I focus that into getting obsessed with whatever it is that I desire and getting obsessed with the realm of infinite possibilities. Because when we're in this like killing state.
Say that again. What I heard you say just now is that like you get obsessed about the thing that you desire.
Yeah.
And then I heard you say, and I could have misheard you, that you get obsessed with infinite potential or infinite possibilities.
Oh yeah. So you're obsessed with the thing that you desire from your soul, but you're obsessed with the infinite potentiality of how that could happen.
Okay, the infinite potentiality of that one desire versus the infinite
it could also be infinite desires also.
Okay.
You know, when I'm manifesting, it's always like this or better. This or more, this or greater, right? But you have to still ask for the this. Like you said, you still have to place your order. So you just don't want to be also like, oh, I just want, you know, infinite possibilities of good manifestations to come into my life, because the world's going to be like,
which door do you want to walk through?
I don't know what you want, right? So we want to be clear and specific, but at the same time, we want to also, you know, release that and let that go. It's a masculine feminine dance, right? So it's a masculine penetration energy of like, here's what I desire from my soul. It's a full feminine release and surrender around like, okay, now the infinite possible, beautiful, powerful, magical ways that gets to show up or better. And then there's another masculine layer of like, okay, now I step, right? And I actually co-create and I take action with this, but from this feminine place of listening. Like, it's this dance. People think it's masculine or feminine, but it's this beautiful balance of both when it comes to manifesting. And yeah, the more that you can get in this energy of like just not even being even slightly available for any other option other than that divine thing. And when I say that, I mean like killing out the lower self, right? Killing out like the lower,
the settling, the tolerating,
all of that, right? It's just like we're not even available for that anymore. You're also, what's happening is you're raising up your minimum standard. Because we never necessarily manifest actually what we want, but we are always, every single day, manifesting our minimum standard. Woo. Like your life right now is your minimum standard. It's what you're willing to tolerate. So for anyone listening and watching, it's like, okay, look at it all. Look at your relationships, your health, your bank account, your cash flow, your savings, your energy, your sex life, all of it. However it is your minimum. You are living into your minimum. You're not living into your vision. You have a vision. You want to bring that vision in, but right now you're at your minimum standard. Now, for some of you, maybe you're like, oh, my minimum standard is pretty good. Like, I'm okay with my minimum. For others, you're like, I'm done with this minimum, right? And then what we want to do is it's this dance of, okay, we have this vision, this prayer, we're going here, but at the same time, we're simultaneously, we need to raise this up. I no longer tolerate that anymore. And this doesn't mean your life is a mess. You can be no longer tolerating $1 million a year because you're ready for 2. You can be no longer tolerating relationships like that because you're ready for something juicy and fucking amazing, right? It's like, it's this dance of like, okay, we're going here, but at the same time, we're raising it up, we're raising up the standard in the bar, and then that's when we start closing the gap. But these two things must happen, right? You asked in the beginning as well, like, why don't people manifest what they want? Many of them just have the vision down, even if they know what they want. Okay, here's my vision, versus like also looking at the minimum standard around like, okay, let's raise this up.
Yeah, what am I willing to tolerate? And I think sometimes we can convince ourselves that that's service, right? They're like, oh, I'm doing a good deed for someone else, or this is me like putting in my time and of suffering, which is kind of like the shadow side of Christianity that I see, where it's like I'm willing to suffer in the now for the perceived payoff of heaven in the future. And I think that the myths that we live into really matter because they affect how we interact in 3D reality.
Yeah.
So I love that of like lifting up the minimum. Okay, so are you willing to do, is there anything else you want to share, like big picture? Any, like if there was one code you could install into the heads and hearts of everyone listening that you would just love for humanity to have? Is there anything else you want to share about manifesting abundance, manifesting millions and magic? I know you have infinite amounts of teaching
Yeah.
But if you're just like, oh, I wish she'd asked me this.
No, there's nothing burning with that. I feel it's been a really beautiful conversation. Yeah, unless there's something else you feel in the space.
Well, now what I would love is like a little bit selfishly, but also for everyone tuning in, is if you'd be willing to coach me on something that I feel like I can't really see.
Of course.
Like, if it's like I know better in my mind, but I can't see it
Yeah.
yet, because sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees when we are the trees. And then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I love the way you talk about reality where like nothing is fixed, right? And it's all malleable, it's all changing. And there's something in my life now that feels fixed. It feels like immovable. And I can't tell if this is truly just the confines with which I need to create inside of. Like every good improv game has rules, and is it becoming creative inside of these confines? Or am I not seeing how I could be really bending reality right now? So the situation is where I'm going to live. Like I'm considering a move. And right now I live in Brooklyn and it's amazing. And it's a concrete box in the sky. It's a beautiful concrete box. There's a lot that I love about it. And my son's father would like to move to the suburbs. And so the fixed part, like what feels real in my head is like, well, I have a son. He has an amazing father. I want them in each other's lives. Like that feels non-negotiable to me. Like we are co-parenting. We are great co-parents. I want my son to have both parents in his life. That feels very clear. I would like to live, say, in Costa Rica or somewhere sunny and warm. And that is not a reality for him right now. Like there are things in his life where he's like, these are hard no's. And so I'm not sure what game to be playing. I'm not sure like what to be manifesting. Is it shifting? Because you can't manifest for someone else, right? You can't like make someone else change or want something different necessarily. So I'm just wondering like how you would even approach this, or how would you coach me on thinking about this? Is it just truly holding the vision of what I want and trusting nature, or is there something that I can't see?
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. What is the outcome that you would love to be experiencing?
I would love to have time and space in nature. I want my feet on the earth. I want trees that are my friends. I want to brush my teeth in the sunshine. I want my son to be able to play in the woods. And I desire community. Like community is really important to me. And lower taxes would be nice.
Perfect. Super good. And super good. Okay, great. And the reality that you're experiencing right now with the current situation and where you're living, from a feeling perspective, how does that feel?
I mean, this is where it's tricky because it feels amazing and I love it for what it has been. But as far as the like feet on the earth, trees around me, it's a 0 out of 10. As far as the nature piece.
Yeah.
But like everything else, community, my roommate, my apartment, my home, like it feels great.
So whose dream are you living into right now?
Whose dream am I in now?
Yeah. Yeah, stay there. So see where your eyes are. Keep looking where you're looking. How far, where is the point that you're focusing on roughly?
Like 10, 12 feet away.
Okay, yep. So just zero in on that point right now. And as you tune into that space, don't look at me, just keep staying with that point. And just tune into it and just notice what you notice about this. Does it have a color?
My current reality, or the space that I'm
Whatever
manifesting
you're seeing,
from.
the space right now. Just keep focusing in on the point. Is there a color at all?
Like light purple.
Okay. And expand it even further. You're noticing a certain shape.
It's like a big flat circle.
Cool. And is it still or is it moving?
Now it's moving. It was still, but now it's like watery.
Cool. And are there any people around there?
The first thing that came up is an unborn daughter named Selah, who's been in the field for a while.
Interesting. Okay. So just, can you see her or feel her? How do you know she's there, or you just feel her?
Just feel her.
Okay. If you zoom on into that scenario, are you able to see her or get a deeper feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I feel quite connected to her often. She was like in my heart.
Okay. Okay, so you have an access point to her. So just go ahead and ask her right now, what is she feeling in this moment?
She feels hurt that I haven't decided and that I haven't made space.
Anything else?
And she's fine. Like, she could come into the manifest or could not. Like, I'm not like saving her from heaven. Like, she's good.
Right.
But yeah.
What does she need you to know?
That I can't get it wrong. That I can have what I want. That I really can have anything I want. And actually, like, as I was saying all the things that I desire, I was realizing how many of them I do have right now.
Beautiful. And so, continuing to zero in on that little spot there, I want you to go ahead and just expand that and make it even bigger, and just go ahead and make it brighter as well. Is the water still moving around a little bit?
I mean, it's like it almost feels like ripples on a pond. Like, it's mostly flat, but rippling out like a pond.
Okay, beautiful. So just go ahead and make it still. Just make the ripples now like completely still. And I want you to surround that area now with a golden ball of light. And just like on a computer, how you click, drag, and drop, I want you to bring it closer and closer and closer to you, just gently. How does it feel as it starts to come closer and closer?
Big, exciting.
So bring it closer and closer until it's maybe like 1/2 meter or so in front of you. Would it feel in alignment to bring this energy that's out in the future currently into the now? Okay. So you can surround that with golden white light, and then you can close your eyes if you want or stay focused on it. I want you to again click, drag, and drop and bring all of that energy, that essence, that beautiful soul, all the guidance, all of the pieces of information, and allow it to come so close until it begins to gently enter your 4-body system in your field, hovering right above your heart. That's right. Coming into the very center of your heart, entering your heart space right now. That's right. And breathing all of that energy in through the very center of your heart. That's it. And just as it's resting in that center point in your heart, go ahead and now gently allow all that information to now implode into every single cell of your being. Allowing every single cell to wake up and open and receive all of this information, working across time and space, every single realm, reality, and dimension to come and bring this now integrated through every single cell, and allow yourself to feel the bliss of how that feels. This light, this energy, integrating this into the now through every single cell. Grounding, anchoring, stabilizing, and embodying all of this energy. And whenever it feels good, bringing back all of that into the embodiment of the now and the present moment. So tell me about that problem you used to have. I don't know about you, but I forgot what it was. But how are you feeling with that now?
certainly there was like the merging is real. Like the time bending felt very real. And I felt this infusion of possibility. And it feels like I get to decide.
So from this place, when you now tune into future choices, different outcomes, the actions that you get to take from this frequency that's now in your cells, how is that now different versus how you were?
Yeah, it feels much more like anything is possible. That actually I've not been deciding, and that's why it hasn't happened. So now it's like, okay, well, decide. Yeah, decide. And like, so here, so we go back to the journal. we go back to the journal, and we start to maybe try on realities. So and maybe a few. Because to go from infinite to like 3, feels a little less terrifying than infinite to 1.
Yeah, exactly.
One concrete reality.
Right.
So like maybe writing, like trying on 3 realities. I'm just like, just try this on, decide.
Try it on. Which is a much better frequency than being in a rigid box of 0 out of 10 choices like you had before.
Yeah. Or feeling like it's stuck. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now I know why they call you the manifestation queen. I mean, I knew already.
I never planned anything, right? It's interesting. I wasn't going to go there in my mind. And then my guidance was like...
Because my eyes really shifted.
Yeah.
So just to bring us home, because you've talked about this a lot, of like, oh, my mind said this, but spirit said this. And I know that it happened in the story of you finding the nest. It was like, we're about to sign this contract, and then Wampa had a dream, and it was like, oh, spirit is leading us somewhere else.
Yeah.
If you had like a Cliff's Notes or like a gut check, or how do you differentiate between mind and spirit when you're journaling and you're like, oh, I'm going to have spirit come through or my higher self come through? Like, how do you determine if it's your mind writing or if it's your highest self writing?
Well, the soul knows within 3 seconds. So if you write something and you feel like, yes, and lit up by it, then the mind comes, oh, but who are you to do that? And how's that going to happen? And I don't know. Is this the mind? Is this the soul? Like, if all of that starts going on after 3 seconds, it's the mind after that. But if the initial gut feeling is there, then it's the soul. It's the soul alignment. It's kind of like, when someone says to you, like, hey, Emily, like, I want you to come to this event tonight. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be the most amazing people. Like, you have to come. And your gut reaction is like, oh, I don't want to. Right? And you have a like, oh, right? And then 3 seconds after that, the mind is like, oh, come on, it's going to be amazing. Like, you might miss out on the opportunity to meet someone. So-and-so's going to be there. It's going to be beautiful. And you go. What happens? You have the worst night in the whole world, right? How many times have we all done that? And we're like, we didn't listen.
Yeah.
So we don't want to beat ourselves up around the not listening, but we actually want to look for these scenarios that have happened in our past so we can reflect back and learn from them and be like, okay, I got the download, but why didn't I listen? We want to listen, we want to trust, and then we want to act. So how many times do we create the space to listen, but we don't trust the information, right? Or we create the space, we receive the download, we trust it, but then we don't go and act upon it. And so the more that you can see this and train yourself to reflect from the past, you'll become more masterful at feeling, okay, yeah, this is my soul. No, okay, that's just my mind going crazy. No, that's totally my ego wanting that. My soul is like, no, calm down, like it's this, right? Right? And you'll get better, like the soul gym, right? Working out this muscle of like really feeling this. And another thing you can do is you can role play or future pace things, right? So if someone's like, hey, Regan, like, I want you to come to Bali next week. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in Costa Rica. That's really far away. Like, I don't know, but there's a feeling where I'm like, that'd be kind of cool. Maybe I should go to Bali. Then my mind comes, I don't know if I should go to, right? And I'm like, do I go left? Do I go right? I don't even know what my mind or my soul is anymore. Like, right? I'm in this moment. So I role play it out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to Bali. Get my passport. Going to start packing my bag. I'm not visualizing. I'm packing my bag, right?
You actually do it.
I pack my bag. I start putting my clothes in there. I'm like, what else do I need for Bali? I need this swimwear. I need these shoes. Okay, it's going to be hot. I need this. Okay, I better tell the team I'm going to need an Uber at this time. I start doing the things. And the whole time, I'm like, how do I feel? Do I feel awesome? Am I excited? Am I like, oh my God, this is so good. I can't wait to get to Bali. Or am I feeling like, oh, This isn't right. This feels stressful. Why am I leaving? Oh God, I don't want to even tell the team to get the Uber, right? So I role play it out. And this can really help people just be like, what do I feel? What do I feel? What do I feel? And you'll start noticing, okay, I feel this guidance. No, that's my mind.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. Rather than just trying it on mentally, you actually start taking the action and then noticing, how am I feeling?
Yeah.
How am I feeling? And this, it feels like it requires, like, if you've been overriding your feelings for 40 or 50 years, then that's where we got to start. Like, what am I feeling? How do I even tune into what is my yes and what is my no?
Exactly.
That's a podcast for another day.
That's another whole show.
So if you had to leave people with one thing, like the number one thing you would recommend for people to manifest more abundance, if they could do one thing starting now, starting today, tomorrow, what would you recommend?
I would recommend that they just unapologetically started grounding and aligning into what it is that they actually want. You know, so many people don't manifest what they want because they never actually put that flag in the ground and be like, this is the thing. And then, like we talked about, unapologetically claim it and choose it with every cell and raise your minimum standard and drop away any other option that's not aligned with that. And so I think this is just such a moment for all of us, regardless, even if you're like, my life is amazing, like, well, what's that next level? You know, what's that next piece? And really starting to ask for that, like putting in the order, like you said, it feels like this is like an accumulation point of like everything we've talked about. Like really listen to this show again and like take notes into everything that we've been talking about, because that's the most helpful. But it really starts there with just making this really deep, unapologetic choice. And then remembering you can change it at any time. You can upgrade it. You can try it on, and a week later be like, actually, I want this other thing that's even more amazing. It's okay. Like we're not solidifying it. If you choose it now, you don't have to keep it for 20 years, right? You can play with it and try it on and keep flowing with it.
Amen.
Yeah.
And can you just paint us a picture of what you think the world would look and feel like if hundreds of millions, billions of people were really architecting their reality, like truly consciously designing and manifesting an abundant reality from their soul? Well, can you paint a picture of what you think that version of Earth would look like?
It'd be so good. It'd be so good. I mean, I would honestly just see a lot of people that were really happy. I would see a lot of people that are in that center that we talked about in the very beginning, you know, like, and really in that center place of their soul. And I think we'd see a lot more peace and harmony on the earth. I think we'd see a lot more beautiful systems and infrastructure being created, redesigned, new systems, new ways of living, new ways of architecting reality in a physical way. I think we would see not just dreams happen for people individually, but entire units of consciousness of people come together and be like, okay, this system's broken. Here's the new way we could do this. This system's also broken. Okay, let us upgrade it in this way. And I think we'd see the whole planet go through this tipping point of just not dreaming about this new earth, but actually birthing this new earth in a really beautiful way. So
amen.
Yeah.
Amen. It does feel like this is happening more and more. The more people are tuning into their souls, tuning into spirit through breath work or meditation or manifesting or medicine work. It's like we're able to get the directions from the CEO, and it's like, hey, we need you to collaborate and we need y'all to collaborate. And it's like it feels like we're not all trying to do it in a silo anymore. And then we're starting to come together and to really be like, well, what are you amazing at and what are you amazing at, and how do we code exchange and then amplify this transmission out into the world? So
we're all doing it together.
Yeah, it's way more fun together.
Way more
it's fun than just sitting behind our Zooms by ourselves.
No.
Well, Regan, I'm quite sure that people have fallen deeply in love with you. So if people want to work with you, if they want to find your work, like where would you recommend people go?
Sure, it's reganhillyer.com, and it's my name, Regan Hillyer, on all the social media platforms. So reach out, send me a message, and let me know that you came from this show as well.
Yeah, and I highly recommend following Regan. Her content is amazing. Her emails are amazing. Your Instagram is amazing. So thank you for all the generosity. And you really do put out so much, like really high value content into the world. So thank you for that. Thank you for this opportunity to stay in paradise with you and Wampa. I feel like y'all, like we found, if you're looking for heaven on earth, it's here. It's here at the Nest in Costa Rica. It's amazing. So thank you for having me.
It's happening. I love you so much. Yes. Thank you for such a beautiful portal of transmission and conversation and upgrades. I think lots of people will have this change ripple through their lives and beyond. So thank you for holding such a beautiful space as well.
I mean, I've been studying this for so long and I got so much out of this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet friends, if you have enjoyed this show, if you have learned something, if you've had an aha about your manifestations, then I would recommend that you share it. Like, let's get this media as medicine out into the world. You can tag us on Instagram. You can screenshot it and tag us. I'm at Ziva Meditation. Regan is at Regan Hillyer. And we'd love to know what you thought. Like, what were your big ahas? What were your big takeaways? And we will see you next week on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?